How does Clemson's defensive line stack up against previous editions? Because we know that it was legendary a couple of years ago.
Well, I mean, 2018 Clemson defensive line might be one of the great defensive lines in history.
Sure.
Not just for Clemson, I mean in college football history. So from a talent standpoint, it stacks up to even that team from a talent standpoint. From an experience standpoint, that's a different story. Now, again, this comes back to what we were talking about earlier with being able to play 11 games. That's not the same defensive line that we saw in September. It's much, much better and much deeper than it was before. But I think if we're comparing Clemson's defensive line to Ohio State's defensive line, or is that what we're doing? We're just comparing Clemson's defensive line.
Greenshield wanted to know how Ohio State's offensive line would fare against Clemson's defensive line. And for me to get a gauge on that, I was just wondering how Clemson's D-line looked compared to previous.
Here's the answer I would give you to that. I think we can all agree here that Notre Dame's offensive line is pretty damn good compared to the rest of the offensive lines in the country. They had 6 sacks in the ACC championship game. Now, there's a different element to Ohio State's offense compared to Notre Dame's, because clearly they have a dual threat. They can both run and pass the ball. Notre Dame, not so much. They're a little bit more one-dimensional. They're definitely more of a running team than a passing team. So I'm not saying Clemson's going to go out there and get 6 or 7 sacks against Ohio State, but I think that's a good gauge just by pure talent on offensive line, that Clemson's defensive line, when healthy, with Tyler Davis in there, which is a big plus, with the linebackers healthy, Mike Jones and Skowski, it's a different scenario. So I think it's every bit as good as any other defensive line we've seen from Clemson over the past few years.
I think this defensive line, if everybody would have came in healthy, like Xavier Thomas, nobody knows what's going on with Justin Foster. He just disappeared off the face of the earth. And if all of them would have came back, this defensive line probably been more talented the way they're playing right now. But I think this defensive line is just great. I mean, Bukowski, number 7, I can't pronounce his name. He's real good. I mean, think about it. He came as a 210 redshirt freshman. He's good. You got Murphy. You got Henry. I mean, Brazier. I mean, we just loaded. Upchurches came along. We're loaded. And think about this. All these guys will be back next year. None of them are going anywhere because all of them are sophomores and freshmen. Henry's not going pro. Xavier Thomas got to get a draft stock up. So they guys will be back. This defense is just as talented as the last one. Like, just a lack of experience compared to the one that we saw in 2018.
I think the key to this game, really, we've talked about Justin Fields, but we've seen Brent Venables destroy incredible quarterbacks by his schemes and by him using his talent. And with Skowski, Jones, the talent that's back at the linebacker position from injury, we have the line you talked about. They're going to hit Fields. They are going to hit him. They are going to batter him. They're coming for him. That's their game plan. But it's I mean, once again, Clemson is in a place where they have so much talent, especially on the defensive line, that they can still swing in and out, even missing guys. You see KJ Henry. I mean, KJ Henry comes out and just does his thing and just kills it. And you're like, who is he? If you're a drive-by football fan who really doesn't pay attention to the other names on the Clemson football team, KJ Henry is this just man of a machine playing for them, and he's just another guy out there on the field. But we saw the difference, like you said, Pete. I don't like to compare Notre Dame and Ohio State because there is differences there. I mean, there's differences there. But notice the difference between a healthy team versus an unhealthy team playing against Ian Book. Ian Book, after that, people were just foaming at the mouth over Ian Book. After that game, and it's like, guys, we were, they beat us. It is what it is, but we were missing a lot of players, and you're acting like he is right up there with Trevor, and we all know that's a lie. And then we saw what happened. 6 sacks. I'm with you. I don't see 6 sacks in this game. I see a lot of hits, probably a couple of sacks, some poorly thrown passes, could lead to some interceptions, but they're coming for him and they're going to hit him because not only is that what they do, it is what they have to do with some questions in the secondaries that we've had all season long.
Yeah, they do use Green at both cornerback and safety, so maybe they'll rotate him in and out, especially with Turner being out and out. He's labeled on the depth chart as a cornerback for some reason. But
how y'all like how they using Simpson? Number 22, because last week I saw him lining up at defensive end, and he got around that corner, boy. That dude, I know he played running back in high school, but that dude is fast. He's a tremendous athlete.
Yeah, they're using him at end, they'll use him at tackle, they'll use him anywhere they can. They're using him a lot like they used Wilkins. Wilkins played a lot of times. People don't remember that. Christian Wilkins played a lot several times. Yeah.
I like how they circle him around. And a guy like him, he's crazy talented, could start absolutely anywhere, and he's lost in the mix of the talent of Clemson. And guys like him, that's their time to shine, especially, and grow as a player, because they get lost in the wash of the talent of Clemson and the big names like the Murphys and the Brissets and etc.
Capehart.
Yeah.
He hasn't stepped on the field this year, has he? Capehart? Has he played this year?
Yeah, he played a little bit.
I thought they were red shirt now. I know Kaka played, whatever his name is. I can't pronounce it.
He's got 4. He could play 4 games and be redshirted, so he's well within that limit, I think.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Now we got some people that we got to keep up with, because that Simpson kid. I heard you say KJ Henry. I'm like, KJ Henry was a 5-star, I think he was top 10, and it's just amazing what type of talent that Clemson has on their defense, and I can't wait the next year to see this guy Barrett they talking about. Because Dabo was pissed that people were saying that he's a linebacker, and he's really he's like, he can play anywhere he wants to on this team. And the 5-star coming out. But I can't wait for this game, man. I think it's going to be really good. The matchups, I just think Clemson's offense is going to be too much for Ohio State's DBs. And that's why I think Clemson's going to win the game at. I think Ohio State's defensive line is pretty good. Harrell is the guy's name that everybody's talking about. He's on the level of Boza and the Boza brothers and the guy that went in the first round last year. I can't think of his name right now.
Talking about Haskell Garrett.
Yeah,
he's a really good defensive tackle. Yeah. Interesting story about him. He got shot in the face breaking up a fight this summer.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Ooh.
You got
to go as to whether he would be with us for a day or so.
Wow.